Happy Saturday morning, everybody. I'm not an animation historian, and for this episode of Animated Series Firsts, I'll be providing an overview of Bosko the Talk Ink Kid. The Bosko character was created by two colleagues of Walt Disney, Hugh Harman and Rudolph Ising. Wanting to create an animation studio of their own, they copyrighted the character sometime between 1927 and 1928. And in 1929 they produced a short talkie animation with the titular character. Remarkably, this Bosko short, which led to the Looney Tunes series of cartoons for Warner Brothers Studios, was never seen by the public until 1999 in an episode of Cartoon Network's Toonheads, which featured so-called lost cartoons.
In the early 30s, Leon Schlesinger agreed to supply Warner Brothers with musical shorts for theatrical release. At the same time, two of Disney's top animators, Hugh Harman and Rudolph Ising, created a new cartoon character called Bosko. The young animators met with Schlesinger and showed him their new animated film. On the basis of this cartoon, Schlesinger hired Harman and Ising at $50 a week to direct his first animated series called Looney Tunes. Here's the cartoon that Schlesinger saw.
If you're familiar with animation from the early 1900s, you'll recognize the variation of the Chalk Talk format that is being depicted here, and which was made famous by the Fleischer brothers out of the Inkwell series that featured their character, Coco the Clown. Here we see Max Fleischer in the same role as Rudolph Ising. This is one of my favorite Inkwell cartoons, which was made in 1919. 10 years before the Ink Talk Kid. It's beautifully animated. Max created a device called a rotoscope, which projects filmed images onto an easel, enabling an animator to trace his source frame by frame to create very realistic movements. Okay, so I'm going to ditch the scripted dialogue here and just talk freely for the remainder of the short. So, similar to the Inkwell clip I showed earlier, you can see a cutout hand just drawing the Bosko character, and shortly after this we can hear Bosko speak.
Well, here I is, and I sure feel good.
Oh, you feel good, do you?
Yeah, I was just out of the pen.
The voice of Bosko here is Carmen Maxwell, who was an animator who, along with Harman and Ising, left Disney and helped produce this short. He had been an animator previously, and this was his first time doing voice acting. He would voice Bosko sporadically between the years 1930 and 1932, although the majority of the Bosko shorts that were done at Warner Brothers were voiced by Johnny Murray. And then Carmen Maxwell again started doing the voice of Bosko once they had taken the character from Warner Brothers over to MGM. And he did that until 1937, I believe, after which he was replaced by Billy Thomas, who was the actor, the child actor, who played Buckwheat in the Our Gang, Little Rascals movies. What's really significant about this movie, other than being what led to the Looney Tunes cartoon series, is the synchronized speech. So the history of sound with animation kind of really began with 1926, where Max Fleischer, with one of his song cartoons called My Old Kentucky Home, using a technology by DeForest called phonofilm, which was a sound-on-film technique. My Old Kentucky Home was the first publicly available animated short which featured synchronized sound. However, in that clip, it was mainly music that was played, and there was a very brief period of synchronized speech. Steamboat Willie did not include synchronized speech, but it did include synchronized sound and an even post-produced sound effects track. So by this time in 1929, and this short was made in May of 1929, other talking cartoons didn't really come out until October of 1929, when Max Fleischer started the talk cartoons, and Mickey Mouse didn't utter his first words until July 1929, which was his 9th cartoon. So the demonstration here with the synchronized speech was pretty substantial compared to what had been released previously, and not much else had existed in terms of talking cartoons at this time. However, as noted earlier, this short wasn't released to the public, and the first official Bosko short didn't come until 1930. So by then, a lot more talking cartoons and singing cartoons had been released by that point. And that's pretty much it to say about the short, except the animated sequences were done by Friz Freleng, who made his name for himself at Warner Brothers, and the co-animator for this was Rawlings Hamilton, another animator who left with Harmon and Ising to MGM and eventually left animation and just went into production. So as I said, that's everything for this short, and I hope you enjoyed it, found it informative, and hopefully you look forward to the next video that I make.